Hello, everyone. Welcome to our October Eureka Pitch Competition. We are experiencing a little bit of a Zoom challenge at the moment. Sit tight. We are gathering up the Baker team and adjusting. So we'll be starting momentarily. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to October's Eureka Pitch event. We're excited to have you all here. Welcome to our guests who are visiting remotely for Family Week, and to our students who are first years and those who've never experienced a Baker event or a pitch night before, and especially to the brave students who will be pitching to for resources for their venture projects. So the Eureka competition has been around for 15 years or so in different forms. But about 3 years ago, we switched from once a year, where we would have a big event at the end of the year and teams would pitch. And then sometimes we didn't see them again. And we missed the opportunity to really help them through the process of building their venture. So about 3 years ago, we switched to this monthly version, and the difference has been remarkable. Students come and can pitch a stage 1 idea, which is really just, I'm dreaming of an idea. I've looked into it a little bit. I think I know what a solution could be. Could you help me get started? And so we welcome students to that, and then they can come back month over month or every few months if they are, if they're taking a little bit longer to work through the process. But as long as they're working on the coaching that we're providing and the provide rationale for the resources that we do give them, they can come back and pitch over and over again. And in that way, we help them move from idea through the continuum of idea to launching a venture. So it's been pretty exciting for us. So, we love to see students more and more getting traction because of this process, and it's pretty exciting as we steward them through. So tonight we have two guest reviewers, Pat Costa and Trish Lauden. I'm going to ask them to unmute themselves and turn on their videos and introduce themselves. Trish?
Hi, my name's Trish Lauden. I am actually an alumni of Lehigh. I'm not going to tell you the year I graduated, but it was a while ago. I was actually a social psych major, and worked in psychology as a clinical therapist for many years. Then I had children, and then stopped working, and then recently a couple years ago, launched a organic craft cocktail company, and I'm located in Bethlehem as well.
And it took us all this time to find you, but we're so happy we did. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Professor Costa? You're muted.
We'll learn Zoom eventually.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pat Costa. I'm a professor of practice here at Lehigh. This semester, I'm starting my 21st year here at Lehigh. And my background is not in education, but if you're here 21 years, I guess you have to say that eventually you're a teacher, right? But my background was in healthcare, in hospital management. I quit and started a medical manufacturing company, and we specialized in neonatal care and brought a lot of products to market in that venue. And then I sold the company, and then I came to Lehigh, and Lisa and I have been together for years and years on these projects.
Don't give me away.
I really love the Baker Institute and what they're doing and their philosophy of really enabling students to follow their dreams. And I'm anxious to hear the two pitches this evening as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, as always. So we're going to get to the pitches right away. So we don't have anyone pitching for stage one at that I'm dreaming of an idea stage. Our first pitch is going to be given by Matthew Gunton, who's pitching for stage two. And what that means is he's identified a problem, a solution. He's going to tell us why he cares about it, who his customer is, what does he know about his customer, what has he learned from them, how are they currently solving the problem, and has been much further along than in that early stage one, I'm dreaming of an idea and a solution. So Matthew, we're going to promote you to panelist. We're going to ask you to unmute and share and turn on your video and share your screen. And when you are ready, Renee is going to give you a 5-minute timer. And then Trish and Professor Costa will ask you some questions. So let's see if I can see you and I can see you're not muted. Are you ready to share your screen, or are you not going to share your screen?
Absolutely. Let me know if everyone can see it.
We can see your screen and we can see you, but you're facing sideways. So
sorry about that. Dual monitors.
If you want to talk to us, turn and face the camera, but otherwise we're ready to go as soon as Renee says go.
As soon as you begin speaking, I will start the timer.
Perfect.
All right, thank you very much. So hello everybody, my name is Matthew Gunton, and I'm here today to introduce Lux. So getting right into it, the reason a lot of people come to university is for the fantastic network effect that universities have. Baker Institute being one of the fantastic ones, uniting all of the entrepreneurial talent Lehigh has. But with the pandemic, there's been a new issue thrown into this fantastic networking effect. And a lot of it rests on the shoulders of people who are new to campus. And it's, how do you meet new people without breaking social distancing? So before COVID and before this pandemic, one of the easiest ways to meet new people on Lehigh's campus for a student was you would go to class, you'd speak to people to your left and to your right, and after class, if you needed to study, you'd reach back out to those same people. As you can see with this image here, Zoom has really thrown a wrench into student engagement. Now, if you talk to professors, one of the complaints they have is it's eerily silent when they're talking to their classes. And the issue from a student's perspective is you don't really get to engage with your peers as much. It's only the professor talking, and for the most part, it's very difficult to connect with others around you. So the solution to recreating this network effect has been to follow the science and have events outside. But as October gets closer and we get colder and colder, that's going to be less and less possible. And as you can see with the cases in Bethlehem, an issue is if we go fully remote, and if the spring is hybrid or even fully remote, these solutions aren't going to recapture that network effect that makes Lehigh such a fantastic university. So what a lot of students have been doing is the simple solution. In your dorm, you're only allowed to have 5 people in your room at once. So a lot of them have friend groups that are just about that size of 5 students. And the issue is Lehigh is such an enormous university. You can meet people from all walks of life, all different experience, all different talents. We want people to be engaged and have a lot of friends. And just specific to Lehigh, the issue is that when you have a lot of people who are disengaged, it's very likely that they will seek other options. So gap semesters, a lot of people have taken, they might consider transferring, and then some might even take the drastic step of ending their higher education. So really, this is a huge issue because Lehigh spends all this money and effort with admissions, getting the best people here. So for them to leave before they become alumni, it hurts Lehigh twofold. One is when they go out into the world and do amazing, successful things, Lehigh doesn't get to showcase their great teaching. And second, if they decide to donate, Lehigh is again losing out. So it's a long-term wound that's being incurred here. So the solution I came up with is called Lux. It's designed to make it easier to meet new people without breaking social distancing. The goal is that once you have met someone with Lux, you can then arrange for a socially distant gathering because you already know them, and just like you would with any friend that you already know, you can do with them as you please. So with Lux, we tested this out with the Outing Club. So they had all of their members hop on Lux. Lux pairs them up randomly, individually. So one-on-one conversations, they're speaking to each other, and it can serve as an introduction, or you could reconnect with old friends. The idea here is that it's just the two of you talking as if it was real life. So then once your conversation's done, you click next call, and it matches you again with someone randomly. So if you think of it like orientation, it's a great way for students to meet each other, but again, without having to break social distancing. But naturally, with a platform like this, you have to take certain precautions. The biggest one is it's a Lehigh-only platform. So this is a prototype, it's live, you can access it, but only if you have a Lehigh email. And that's important because every time you match with someone, you have to know who you're matching with. So you have the full name and you'll have your full Lehigh login or Lehigh email address. So this way, in the worst case scenario, someone says something curt or someone behaves poorly, you can report them to conduct. And as you can see here, this is the message that we start every match with. The goal being, we remind them that they're accountable to Lehigh's code of conduct so they behave accordingly. So with market research, I've shown Lux to all of these fantastic administrators going from left to right. Dr. Meda is the vice provost of the Mountaintop Initiative, and his biggest thing is he wants engagement, engagement, engagement. He goes to all the work to get fantastic people together. You want them to work together. He mentioned that he'd be willing to test this as soon as I showed it to him. And then the two in the middle, Mr. Arsenio Perry and Mr. Nicholas Christie, both student engagement directors. And they saw this and they immediately thought they want to test this with the whole freshman class. And as soon as we get it up to scale, that's what we plan to do. And finally, Dr. Rick Hall, we were speaking to him and he was in love with the idea, but again, we have to show that it can work for the entire university. We want to showcase that this can be a success, but he loved the idea. So with my remaining seconds of time, what I'll do with your investment is use it to incentivize interactions. And then with the Baker Network, ideally introduce me to the right people at Lehigh so that we can test this out for the best mutual benefit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matt. You can stop sharing your screen and you will be front and center with our reviewers who are going to ask you some questions about what you just talked about.
Trish, do you want to go, or Matt? Tell us a little bit about your background. What year are you, and what's your major, and just share with us a little bit so I get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So I am a junior in the computer science and business program. So really, I love programming. It's my big passion. I love making prototypes. Last year we had the egg hunt on campus, and I coded up a way for us to keep track of 2,000 eggs. So we would know who had found each egg, and whoever had found the most eggs, we gave a monetary prize to.
Right. And other than COVID, how did this idea, were there other issues in terms of connection that kind of spawned the idea or generated this idea? Because I love it. I'm going to join the crew that you presented there. I agree to get to know everyone, because you don't know when you meet someone what can come of that. And on a campus like ours now, but even if when this passes, we're all crossing our fingers, there's still opportunity for this. This isn't a short-term fix. This is a long-term, I think, game changer. How did you stir your pot to come up with this?
Well, thank you for the support, Professor. I'm one of the university productions directors. So the university gives us money to put on events. And the biggest issue we find is we want to have everyone campus unity. That's the big thing. We want people to meet each other. And so COVID, like you're saying, it prevents an interesting issue that no one can physically meet. But speaking over with the directors of student engagement, Mr. Perry, Mr. Christie, the one thing that came to their mind was, it's fantastic during the pandemic. This is absolutely essential. But afterwards, this is something their office can use to facilitate unity, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. You can even see it in the prelusion events as first years arrive and all throughout. You can even see this tailored out in certain interest groups. Entrepreneurship, for example, just as you pointed out with the outing club, another group in that. What do you think your biggest hurdle is? What is it that's stopping you, or what's your biggest challenge here?
Definitely the big issue is the human side of things. From a tech point of view, as much as you can possibly say, it's solid. A few of my good friends, I said, if anyone can hack this, I'll give you $200. And so far, I still have my $200.
And have you written all the code? Have you created the app and so forth?
So it's weird to describe a tech business sort of like the traditional supply chain, but we outsource the video calls. So that way the scale issue is another company's, but all of the matching engine and then the security to make sure it is Lehigh, that was all of my code.
So I'm going to ask Trish to jump in here and see what we can discover from her perspective.
It's a great idea. I think it's even, post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, for people that are uncomfortable going to the social gatherings. I think we are an online world now. I think it is a great idea. You spoke to professors and kind of got the university side. Have you spoken to your peers who are going to be the users? So what is their feeling about doing something like this?
Well, thank you, Trish. So you're absolutely right. The professors can love it, but the students are the ones who use it. So in that mind, what I've been doing is reaching out to my good friends who run clubs on Lehigh's campus, and I've been having them test it out. So Outing Club was the biggest one who I reached out to. We tested it, and the feedback we got was enormously positive. They start out every meeting with breakout rooms, and the goal is, having their club members get to know each other. So this was a natural fit to what they're trying to do. So the clubs especially love it. And I'm lucky enough I get to mentor a few people, freshmen, via my Rosen Junior Fellow position. We used it with them, and they also had very high feedback. So every student we've seen it has also liked the idea and the reality that it is.
And then the other question I had is, it's students and people are kind of creatures of habit. I don't personally do it, but my kids use Snapchat. Obviously now Zoom has become the latest and greatest. What makes yours, I can see in ways that makes yours different, but in what way would you compete with that? Because a lot of times people don't want to venture into new technology. They like what they're used to. What would make yours stand out that would make people use it?
It's a very good question. You look at Snapchat and like all those social networks, and the network effect is a lot of their power. So the goal with this, to give it staying power, is twofold. One is we use the monetary, assuming that we win. The investment with Baker is designed to make it a little bit like a competition. When we beta test this, we would say, whoever has the most meetings on Lux the first night wins $200. And the hope is that would incentivize enough students to say, well, I'd love $200, let me log on. They use the platform and get used to it. So from a student's point of view, like you're saying, familiarity, that's the hope, is you kind of get them introduced to the idea. But then the long-term staying power is the university. The hope is offices like Mr. Perry, Mr. Christie's, like Dr. Mehta, the goal is they would see this as an engagement tool. And it's very simple for them to set up on their end. And the goal is that then they would say, all right, let's just set this up. From a student's point of view or a user, all you have to do is click login and click next call once you're done meeting. So there's not much of a learning curve. And then for administrators, that's really who you're selling. That's the staying power.
Who do you
Renee,
think?
how are we doing on time?
That was 5 minutes.
Okay, let's go one more.
Who do you think is the point of call at the university? Who's the decision maker that whose door would you knock on?
It's a good question. A big reason of also reaching out to Baker is I know that they know better. So whatever answer I give, I'm sure that they could give me a better one.
And then
But-
just quickly to follow up that in terms of financial sustainability, like, do you intend to sell this? I mean, how are you going to sustain yourself financially to continue this?
The goal really is to sell it to the university. This is something that Lehigh could use, but frankly, I'm partial to Lehigh. I go to school here, but Temple University, Penn State, they all have this problem. And so the hope is you could extrapolate this to help even more students.
Got it. Good luck.
So the follow-up here is, first of all, we had a question from an anonymous attendee who you actually answered their question by saying this could scale to other universities. And because you're pitching at stage 2, we're not asking you about your business model, but I'm sure when you come back to pitch for stage 3, you'll have that well in hand. So that's something that we'll look forward to learning as you move forward in this process. So thank you, Matt. You can shut everything down and go back to being an audience member, and we will catch up with you later. All right, well, thank you, audience members, for your thoughtful listening and active participation. We're going to now move to a stage 3 pitch. So we're going from Lux to Lax. So this pitch is about lacrosse sticks, a venture called Wood Goods, and our student entrepreneur is Justin Gelwicks, who will be sharing his screen shortly. Can I see him yet? Let's see, don't see Justin.
Can you see my screen?
Now I see Justin and your screen.
Awesome.
Yes. So when you start, Renee will start timing you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Gelwicks. I just transferred here last semester. And I'm going to be talking about Wood Goods Lacrosse. So an important part of this story is that in my first semester at my old school, I was mugged coming out of a Walmart. I had a concussion, my jaw was knocked out of place, and I had minor brain damage. I had to go on medical leave, so I did what any rational person with a severe brain injury would do. I took an apprenticeship in fine furniture making. I fell in love with woodworking, and I spent every day at the wood shop for the rest of the year. But I played lacrosse for Colby, and I could not anymore because of my condition. And this was my family at the time. So my way of saying goodbye to them was to make wooden shafts for all of my teammates. I decided to give them these sticks after talking to teammates and realizing that it was clear that we all shared the same problem. Our sticks break a lot. I did some research, and the shafts today are 23% lighter and therefore thinner than 5 years ago. And I had one friend that broke 4 carbon long poles in 4 practices, and that's $1,200. Wood shafts are solid all the way through though, so they're a lot stronger. Carbon shafts command such high premiums because they flex and give you harder shots. Wood sticks do the same, and I realized that marketing these as more durable, affordable alternatives would be essential in the way that we sell our products. And after that, I started looking at ways that we could further differentiate our product and branding from everything else in the market. So first and foremost, we differentiate our products by offering laser engravings. So players can get their names, numbers, and logos engraved on their sticks as an add-on right before their eyes and on site. I charge an additional $15 for this service, and nearly everyone who buys a stick gets it engraved. Now this is great because the sticks have a lower base price than my competition, but the add-ons make up for the sale in slump costs, which is really great. We also have a no questions asked 1-year warranty, which is the only one of its kind in the defensive shafts in the market. So that really sets us apart as well. Pairing this with the fact that all of our products are handmade in the USA and that 5% of our profits go to the Wounded Warrior Project, American Cancer Society, and the Ocean Cleanup meant that my sales exceeded my wildest expectations. I made 10 times what I expected to at my first tournament and doubled my revenue for the next 2 tournaments. And in just 12 weekends, I had made over $27,000. Most of my woodshaft competitors import their products from Alibaba, which costs them about $9 per unit, including shipping. But it also means that they're using cheaper materials. I source my wood from the same trade secret area that Louisville Slugger sources their ash. And because I was able to build my own wood shop, my own industrial wood shop with the profits in my garage, I'm able to turn this rough cut lumber into shafts for only 55 cents per unit, including machine depreciation. And this direct-to-consumer supply chain is how I'm able to create a superior quality product while undercutting the competition in price. I had originally left school to pursue furniture making and this business and go to trade school. But I was drawn to Lehigh because of the Baker Institute and the Wilbur Powerhouse. And I'm glad I enrolled because COVID-19 has taken a huge toll on sales. New regulations at tournaments, such as 1 parent per player, half as many teams as attendance, kids getting out of their cars, playing back-to-back games and leaving, meant that we're now making a lot less than we did last year. And while I focused on improving in-person sales, such as starting a second location with my new team member, Pat, paying him 10% and investing with him with the hope that he could vend his own tournaments next summer, or investing in new advertising equipment, such as a new tent or table covers, and that has helped. My mistake was that I was not focusing on other sales markets, especially the online market. So I used the funds I received last year to focus on improving this in-person sales market and setting up that second location so we could sell that product. And in that timeline, I made the next step, building a website. So that's what I did. However, I soon realized that the site lacked the functionality that I needed to make the essential brand image part of my business, that is custom engraving, online and completely seamless and super easy. And honestly, I didn't know how. I also realized that I need to greatly increase my social media presence and learn how to advertise on the platform. As you can see, I only have 236 followers. I've kind of neglected this part of my business, if I'm being honest, and I need to work to improve that to greatly generate sales for the site. And this is also something that I knew nothing about. However, I entered the pitch competition last month and I lost due to my lack of focus on my brand extension ideas. But I actually saw that as a learning experience and a victory because I was reached out to by Nicole Bolton, a senior comp sci major with a minor in entrepreneurship, who built the site for one of Lehigh's most successful startups, the Sneakerhead Paradise. In addition to developing a beautiful site, Nicole managed the social media accounts for them. And I knew right away that I wanted Nicole on the team after she reached out to me. And she fit exactly the 2 holes that we had in the business. And I knew she would fit perfectly. Not only that, she would give us a more clear trajectory into establishing the business into an online brand. Once we get the site up, we will be able to use it as a platform for one of the most exciting expansions in my business, team orders. So I've been talking to the Headstrong Foundation, which presents a unique opportunity because they are a charity as well as a lacrosse club, and they're based in the Lehigh Valley, which is very convenient. I would be able to donate sticks to their organization, and the money associated with that order, which could be anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000, will go to providing housing for families going through chemotherapy. And this is a great charity because 95% of that, or 95 cents in the dollar, goes directly to helping people, which is much better than other charities. In addition, another cool team order that was in the works in the spring but kind of fell apart because of COVID was the donation to Brookholm Middle School. I wanted to give players access to free equipment and the opportunity for everyone to participate in youth sports, which I thought was just a really cool idea. In addition to that, it could also tie into for-profit team orders, which can be incredibly rewarding. And I've done one before for the connections in the industry, but obviously they're also very lucrative. But in order to accomplish this, we would need a platform for this to happen. So I'm asking for the full $1,000 so that with Nicole's help, we can further develop the site as well as experiment with a multitude of preliminary marketing tactics, such as AdWords, such as advertising bots. And the fall tournament season starts in 2 weeks. And with your help, I will be able to establish this online presence that will serve as the base for communicating with these teams in that time. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm looking forward to questions.
Thank you, Justin. If you would stop sharing your screen, then we will get right to the questions now.
I have a question. I mean, the sticks are beautiful. Are they intended? They're not novelty. They're intended to be used by players.
So one thing that's very important with that the Baker Institute has taught me about entrepreneurship is you need to find very niche segmented markets. Their base intentions originally was to give them to my team as a product that they could use and play with. And I was looking for a performance aspect. But because I was using higher quality woods than my competitors and my woodworking knowledge, I was able to turn them into a novelty. I kept the price low so that I could segment into different niche markets. So not only was it someone who needed affordable sticks, it was someone who wanted just something beautiful on their wall with their family name on it. So I appeal to very niche markets, but I appeal to different markets, and I approach those markets differently.
And these are full-size sticks, or are they miniature?
Full-size sticks. We have attack, defense, and we have multiple versions across each product line.
And when you had said it would cost you 55 cents per stick, does that include labor, or is that just?
That's all my own labor, and I do not count that in because I can produce 200 sticks a day because of the wood shop that I built in my garage. So if you were to count in labor, it'd be more than that, but I'm all about the hustle, and I love what I do. So it's not I don't really take that into account. It'd
be good to find out what that would cost if you had somebody else manufacture, to put that kind of into a business plan, just to.
Yeah, to go into scale.
Yeah, right.
And that's another reason why it's great that the costs are low. I've been talking to like retail stores, and having an online platform would really secure the bag on establishing them with the retail stores. I'm already in one, which is really great. And having that online presence and that low cost would allow me to scale at a very, very good rate. I'd still maintain those margins in wholesale marketing.
And do you have competition for this?
So this is really cool. So all of my competition, there were 5 competitors in the in-person sales market, and 4 of them over the past year and a half that I've been running this have completely given up going to in-person sales because they just simply can't compete. They'll set up 2 tents down and they'll sell their sticks for $15 more than me, and people will go up to mine and see that they're higher quality and that you can get yours laser engraved, because most people running the market don't have the technical knowledge of like computer science and like laser engraving softwares, and that's something that really differentiates my product even among that market. So we have higher quality, lower prices, and it sounds too good to be true, but they don't really try to compete with me anymore.
Right. Just my last question is when in looking at helping with your social media, with your website and all that, do you have in place things for videos?
So we're going to do some cool promos. One thing that we're going to emphasize is the flex of the wooden sticks. Now, carbon sticks cost a lot of money. Like they're like the cream of the crop, shaft on the market. And that's because they flex. They're actually a lot weaker and have a worse strength to weight ratio. Because they use higher quality woods, they break less easily and they flex. They're a little bit heavier, but you can't appeal to everyone, And so marketing that affordable carbon shaft flex thing is something that no one's ever done in the wood shaft market. And I think it's essential to my brand image. So we're gonna have a lot of slow-mo videos of the shafts flexing and like improving shot speeds. And we'll do lots of promos like that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much.
So Justin, I think you've done a very good job. And I think over the time of trying and what you called failing, which is just learning, and doing it again and again, I think you really are starting to truly focus on your differentiation. And the best thing that I heard you say was finding Nicole and finding that other portion of your business that I think you really need to fill out your reach. So just let's talk a little bit about then your online sales. I think we all get, you go to the site, they feel it, they touch it, they can even try it, and then they buy it. And the engraving there, I agree with you, is a big hit. But now you're selling it online, and you're going to lose, I think, all of that physical, that tactile kind of relationship there. What challenges do you see in doing that, and maybe how are you trying to kind of address that?
So one big issue that I have is being in an in-person sales market and having, I don't consider it failing. Like, in fact, the best pitch competition was probably last month's, even though I've won a couple others, because I met Nicole, and I've learned to focus my brand a lot more like segmented. And the biggest problem is I started my business and I've worked trial, failure, whatever you want to call it, in-person sales. And a big part of that is my personal brand image. Like being friendly, being outgoing, talking to people about lacrosse and its history and the charities that we support, and getting their attention with myself. Something that I've had to work on is that advertising equipment I bought, for the first time, it felt like people were approaching the stand without me talking to them. And the biggest challenge that I always knew was like separating myself and my personal brand image from the company's brand image. And as we go into in-person or online sales, I'm completely cut off from my online brand image. So making sure that my site looks as professional as possible, making sure that it's as seamless as possible, making sure that people understand what differentiates this among other woodshaft competitors is by far the biggest challenge. And that's one of the reasons why I need Nicole's help and why she's going to be perfect.
But I want to touch on what Trish said. I think you're a great salesperson, and your passion, I am convinced, in your physical presence when you were at these sites also helped build trust and sell your product. Somehow you've got to find ways to include that on your site. You just can't be a passive, here I am, and make your claims. They've got to see the why about you and the passion that you have for this. So maybe some interviews, some testimonials, some videos with you, I think would help a lot, as opposed to just delivering information. That's not going to move them. The information isn't going to move them.
So yeah, so that's a really good point. And one thing that is really positive about these team orders that we could get into once we get that site online is, say we did a donation to Brookholm Middle School, and like we get a picture with all of the kids and their new sticks. That would be awesome on the site. People would see it and they'd go, that's amazing. Or that we donated $5,000 to the Headstrong Foundation. That would be amazing. But another thing that I've also thought of, and I've thought about more recently, because I need to maintain that personal brand image, because like I'll like try very hard to remember random people. Like I'll be like, oh, you're like Smith number 55 on your stick. And I'll try very hard to do that. And people will recognize me, and that's like the big network externality that is my business. It's like, it's not people coming up to the stand and buying a stick. It's people coming up to the stand and buying a stick, going back to their team and telling them, and then 5 more people coming back. Mm-hmm. So maybe having a section that I've been thinking about of like my story, because my story is kind of cool, like how I turned like brain damage into woodworking, into lacrosse, into saving its history, and donating and creating a superior product. I think
you want to create that connection between that user, that customer, and you and your brand. You've come a long way. I'm pretty proud of you in terms of where you started and where you are today.
Thank you.
Very good presentation.
It's a lot of the presentation was all the IBE class he taught.
So we're gonna stop here. We're out of time for Q&A. I want to circle back to one of Trish's points related to your labor costs. This is something we've talked about over time, Justin, where yes, it is still the day where you can produce as many sticks as you can sell. And when the day comes that you can't produce as many as you're selling because your online business has taken off, that you have a plan and start to think about putting a plan in place to manufacture with the integrity of your brand that you intend. So we're going to push you hard on that as you keep coming back. You know that. We're not going to push you hard tonight, but next time we will. Okay. So that concludes the pitch portion of the evening. We have a couple of more things we want to share with you while Trish and Pat deliberate about what resources they think should be provided to these entrepreneurs. Before we do that, I just wanted to ask, was there any last thought for either of the student entrepreneurs tonight, Trish or Pat, that you wanted to circle back about before we send you on your way, or any other wisdom that you'd like to share in general with our audience this is a great time for you to do that.
Well, I would just say that this is, to the audience, this is so typical of what Baker does. How they connect and how Baker reaches out to the student population and encourages them. And failure to Baker is nothing more than just feedback. And they have a way of loving their students through the failure, and then ultimately, I think, into many successes that they have. So that would be my comment there. I was pleased on both presentations. Justin needed to find a Nicole and help broaden his reach. And Matt really does need the outing group, and he needs more of these evaluations to go on to build, to find his problems, and also to build his story there. I thought both presentations were very well done.
Good, thanks, Pat. I didn't pay you to say those nice things, but I certainly appreciate it. Trish, any last thoughts?
No, I too was very impressed with both presentations. I had sat in August and saw Justin's presentation then, and it really, his focus has come a long way, if I can say that. I mean, I think what he's doing is really, he's definitely shifted his focus, and it looks like that's a more tangible game plan, particularly in the pandemic, but it's mostly our world. You can't feasibly be at every event. So this is a great.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Wonderful. So we're going to say goodbye to you two for now. And this feels like a game show or something where we send you off to do something else. But thank you so much. And we will hear back from you shortly.
Yep.
So to the audience and to those who pitched and are anxiously awaiting the results, we're going to fill the time now with a conversation with one of our former student entrepreneurs, Eliza Wastcoat, who's joined us tonight. I don't know if you've changed locations yet, Eliza. Are you
No,
yet?
No.
No, you still are local, but we're so happy to have you with us. Eliza graduated last December, having been a principal in a startup that she partnered with another student entrepreneur who is still at Lehigh. And then she transitioned into a position with a startup through the Venture for America program. And so we thought it would be interesting to have Liza come back and talk a little bit about what her journey has been like from student entrepreneur, how that helped her at school, and then how that sort of positioned her to be to develop her entrepreneurial talent in the workforce. So Eliza, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be back and see everyone.
So I didn't say everything that I should have said about you. What else would you like everyone to know?
It wasn't easy finding a job. I will be honest about that. Took me many months, many rejections, probably like over 20, some maybe even 30 rejections, or just like not hearing back. So Baker really gave me an attitude of just hustle and kind of keep going. So in that time, I decided I wanted to learn new things and used the Baker network to basically run my own consulting business, where I've coached small startups on social media and content creation, all kind of while learning new software. And that was probably the best use of my time, despite finding it really hard to get a job even before COVID. And that for me has been a platform that I've now transitioned to being able to do full time. So don't give up would be my message from that.
That's wonderful. In fact, we were just talking with someone earlier today about the difference between celebrating failure and celebrating the persistence that comes with the failure if you see it in the right light. So persistence is something you've certainly always had and seem to have grown even stronger since the journey out of school has begun. So were there any particular skills in that regard that you learned through your experiences while at Lehigh and in Baker programs and being part of a student startup that took you well into your job search?
Yes, I would definitely say so. I think at first I was a little bit almost conflicted, or didn't trust myself enough in terms of choosing the startup or entrepreneurial world after college. I think a lot of the time the advice is kind of the opposite of find a big company, do your corporate training, and then transition into the startup world. And I had a kind of honest conversation with myself where I just I knew that wasn't for me. It wasn't my personality. I like to be in a decision-making position. And the only way that I could kind of get into that early on was through the startup world. And that was something that through working with a Sneakerheads Paradise while I was at Lehigh, I loved the energy that I got from the pitch competitions, from finding investors, from like talking and changing business plans and improving our way of working. And doing the summer in the hatchery program when it was that full summer, that for me was like a turning point where I really realized this is something that excites me, makes me happy, that I want to go and do every day. And so finding the Venture for America program was really great because they kind of act like a special recruiter that is connecting you with other startups which are looking for talent. But they do provide some security and support that sometimes is missing in the startup world as a new college grad, where, you know, if your startup all of a sudden goes under and they can't pay your salary anymore, that VFA will step in and help you pay a month's rent and help you find a new startup or job. And so that gave me the confidence to take that leap and transition into running my own consulting business and having clients and feeling kind of safe while doing that. And looking back on it now, it's mostly because, or is all because of the Baker programs, of doing the pitch competitions, doing the hatchery and LSV, and actually talking to entrepreneurs who've done it themselves and listening to their stories. I think that's been the most important takeaway, is listen to the experience of people who've done it before, because they really know what that looks like and have great advice for you.
Well said, Eliza. No surprise. So there are several first-year students on the call tonight who may not see themselves as entrepreneurs or as ever being entrepreneurs, but I know you've thought a lot about thinking like an entrepreneur and applying it in a variety of ways. Can you remember what it was like when you first started thinking that way and you were in class and you thought, oh, that transfers to this?
Yes. So I think, like, starting off as a freshman, I hadn't found Baker yet. It wasn't in my sphere of Lehigh related things. And I think in some ways, I've really been noticing this more so lately as I've left college, but I think a lot of people, when you're kind of 18, 19, especially if you've never been introduced to entrepreneurship, you think of it as something that's only related to like the Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, these unicorn billion-dollar companies that honestly make starting a company or pursuing an idea seem really daunting and like completely unachievable, to be honest. And it wasn't until I was kind of exposed to a larger network of entrepreneurs who are sustaining their life and paying their bills with small businesses that are, you know, churning in the small millions of profit every year, and they still are successful and making an impact and solving problems, but it's not on the same scale. And so I think after my first pitch, I was pitching for this like big concept idea on online shopping, and like I want to change the way we do online shopping. I had all these big aspirations, and kind of through the process of doing Baker's programs, I've learned to dial that back and start with just what is the one simple problem that you're trying to solve, and what's the easiest way you can solve it at this point, and what can you learn about that so you can keep improving what you think the best solution is. And so I guess my advice would be to not feel intimidated or feel like you have to create this like mega mind of an idea. It's really the process of learning how to come up with an idea, research it, talk about it, make somebody feel interested in it. Because even if you don't start your own company, entrepreneurs are really vital in every company's ecosystem. And so we need thinkers like that who can go in and change a company's culture or introduce new ideas. It's not just about starting your own business.
Absolutely. And as you know, we make the definition very clear from the beginning that someone who is entrepreneurial recognizes problems as opportunities to create solutions that are valuable to others. So inside a company, inside your own company, in government, in religion, in any possible situation when you are the one that can see the opportunity to create a new thing that's valuable, you will always be more successful than those who don't see it that way. And you certainly have embodied that. So tell us, so you're with a company through Venture for America. We won't spend too much time on the company, but what I think is exciting for the student entrepreneurs who are on the call is what's coming up for VFA, where we can learn more about many of the startups.
Oh yes, so Venture for America is, for those of you who don't know, it's a program that's a 2-year fellowship, and they work in emerging cities across the US to create economic growth and prosperity within those regions. And so they're recruiting people from top class universities, the best talent they can find, and trying to inject that into these emerging economies by trying to stimulate job growth through the startups. And after your 2-year fellowship, you get access, obviously, to the extensive VFA networking community, of which I believe there are over 100 VFA fellow-founded startups currently in operation and making profit. And you get access to their VC fund, their accelerator program, and general support around starting your own venture. And so the exciting thing that is coming up is Venture for America's Demo Day, which works similarly to how EUREKA does. It's a pitch competition that's exclusive to previous VFA fellows who have started their own businesses. And there's a grand prize or prizes given up to $10,000 in that day. And so they're really focused on creating the next generation of startup leaders and people who not just want to form startups, but really want to have an impact and want to get to know the cities that they're in, want to go beyond the bottom line being profit, but the bottom line including impact as well as profit.
That's very exciting. And I would imagine at the end of your 2 years, you'll probably be demoing whatever your next great idea is. So if folks want to be able to look at the VFA Demo Day or Remote Demo Day, and they Google VFA Demo Day, will they find it?
You know what, I'm not sure all of that information is out yet,
Okay.
but I'll connect with the VFA marketing community, and I'll send you an email. You can pass it along to anybody
Great.
who's interested in going.
Yep, so anybody on the call who's interested can get in touch with Baker through Renee or Chris or me, and we'll provide you with that information, but I'm sure it will be an exciting event. We all plan to be there, so we're excited about that. So we'd like to open it up to questions from students, from parents, whoever is visiting with us tonight who would like to ask Eliza a question, who would like to ask about the Baker Institute, about EUREKA, about other opportunities available through the Baker Institute. If you'd like to ask a question, you can post it in the chat or the Q&A section, and then I'll ask you to turn on your mic and ask it live. So while you're thinking about what questions you might like answered, I'll talk a little bit about what's coming up. So we hold EUREKA events once a month. I think our next EUREKA is it's in November, but I'm not sure exactly when it is. November 12th, thank you so much. Again, in a Zoom webinar like this. So students who are interested in pitching, excuse me, will be asked to register a couple days before so we can get them into the queue and get them excited about pitching. Excuse me. I don't know if you could hear the lawnmower outside of my window, but it's made my allergies go a little bit crazy. As well, for first year students, we have a couple of events coming up, a couple of workshops, short workshops you can participate in to start to kickstart your entrepreneurial thinking. One is focused on reframing the problem so you can understand that you know what problem you're solving. And the second one is called a Dumb Ideas Workshop. Ideas so dumb they might even be great. So those are two fun ways to get engaged as a first year student. Oh my goodness. We don't have any questions in the chat, and you've all been with us for an hour, and we greatly appreciate your time. You can reach us at bakerinfo@lehigh.edu. You can reach me at lig4@lehigh.edu. We thank you all for your time and attention. One last thing I'd like to call attention to, as we are in this 100% remote environment, we actually have an opportunity to engage with many more people in a variety of ways. And so we're excited to talk about a couple of things that are coming up in November. On November 17th, one of our recent alums, Sam Benchagib, who has just run across the country to bring awareness to the environmental concerns related to plastic waste, is going to be joining us for a chat. During Global Entrepreneurship Week, we'll be hosting a pitch competition for student athletes who are working on solving the affordable housing crisis. That will be our Lehigh Loft competition this year. And our applications are open for the Lehigh Silicon Valley program, so we look forward to hearing from those of you who are interested in applying for that. So what's going to happen is our reviewers are going to make their determinations, and the results are going to be posted on our social channels. We are at Baker Lehigh on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. So with that, I will thank you, Eliza, for joining us. I will thank our two student entrepreneurs, Justin and Matt, and thank you all for joining us, and we will hope to see you next month. Good night.